Hey JIT coders. In today's video, we're going to explore the singleton design pattern in JavaScript. Now, before I begin, I do want to state that a singleton design pattern is not very useful in JavaScript world because you've already got module scoping. So, for example, if I create something like this, if I say const x is equal to 42, and then export default x, well, the module side of things is only ever going to execute once anyway, so it's in effect a singleton already. A more practical example would be if I did singleton and in the constructor we call out my singleton constructor called, and let's just add a method here, console log world, and export default new my singleton. So I can't really think of any case where the module level code would get executed multiple times. So I would only ever get this instance once. I would always get the same instance. But anyways, just wanted to throw that disclaimer out there. But yeah, let's begin. So a singleton, I'm not sure if I defined it earlier, but a singleton is a design pattern that ensures that there's only ever one instance of a class in your application space. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to declare a variable called instance. So instance is equal to null, and we'll create a class called singleton. And in the constructor, what we can do is we're going to take advantage of module scoping here, and we'll say if instance is equal to null and instance is equal to this, and we'll set some create a method. Oops. Right. Oh, I accidentally created that inside the constructor. Okay, there we go. And else. So if there is an existing instance, return the existing instance. We don't really need this to be an else statement, so let's just say that. And what we can now do is export default singleton. All right. Now let's go over to our index file. I created this class in a file called singleton.js, and let's import singleton. Right. Quick side note here, I am using type module. So if you're following along, when you create your NPM package, when you initialize it, go ahead and go to package.json and change your type from common JS to module. All right, so say const I is equal to new singleton. and call greet. Now, if we run that, we get hello world. But how do we know that we're actually getting the same instance? So if I say x is equal to new singleton and x.greet, how do we know that I and x are actually referring to the same instance? In order to figure that out, let's go back to our singleton class and let's set a private variable. We'll just call it private value. Oh, right, that's a TypeScript thing. So here, and we'll create a method called setValue. And we'll get rid of, we'll update greet to say hello world. Actually, let's just change the entire message. Let's just say the private value is value. So we have two methods now. One is called set method that will set a private property on this instance. And the second method will just output it. Let's go back to index, and here we'll have i.setValue 42, and we'll have x output it. And if they are indeed the same instance, then x.greet should output 42. So let's go to our terminal and let's run this. And as you can see, the private value is 42. So we know that it is the same instance. And that's it for how to create a singleton, how to implement the singleton design pattern in JavaScript. And then in this next part, I'm going to go over some practical use cases. If you're not interested in those, you can stop watching here. And if you are interested, let's go over some real-life use cases. So one use case that I can immediately think of is having a singleton represent state or hold some configuration. Let's say if we wanted to get really fancy and have an environment variable that can get updated live or something, you can use it for that. But let's go over a use case example where we're using a singleton for configuration. So I'm going to create a new file called config instance null. Now, the only time you would want to use an actual singleton implementation is if you're going to do some dynamic things with these config values. If you're not, I wouldn't really recommend using the singleton here. I think you're better off just relying on the module itself. And what that really means is, let's say I have an application that connects to a MongoDB instance, and I have a MongoDB connection string, and I have a JWT private key or something. So I'm gonna in this example, I would say Let's create a const MongoDB URI. And I would just get it from process.env. Also import search from search and make sure that it's not missing. So if there is no MongoDB URI defined, I would just, missing environment variable MongoDB URI. And, JWT secret. And we do the same thing for the JWT secret. So, now we can just export MongoDB URI and JWT secret. So this is the way I would recommend doing it. So, full disclaimer. But if there is some valid reason that I can't think of that you need to use singletons, or if this is just for general knowledge, then let's go down that road. So I will create a variable called instance, set to null, and I will create a class called config, and in the constructor, say if instance null instance is equal to this, and Mongo URI and JWT secret. Oops, that's not camel cased. Okay. So if instance is null, return the existing, or set the instance to this, and I think we should also grab the variables and whatnot here. So let's do Mongo URI is equal to process.env.mongo URI. And let's assert okay, so we are grabbing the environment variable, Mongo URI, we're setting it to this instance property, and then asserting that instance property and making sure that it's not undefined. And let's do list.jwt secret is equal to process.env jwt underscore secret. And we'll do the same thing. Let's assert that the environment variable exists. All right, now if the instance isn't null, just return instance. All right, and yeah, so now we can just export default config class. So now if we go to our index.js, let's import config from config. And let's pretend we're connecting to Mongo. So Connecting to Mongo. All right, now let's run that. I'll need to pass in the environment variables. So MongoDB URI test and JWT secret test. Oh no. All right, so what is it complaining about? Missing environment variable Mongo. Oh, called it Mongo URI. What did I do here? MongoDB. I'm going to change this to MongoDB. Okay, there we go. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Bye.